welcome back to our channel. I'm Callie.
I'm Bean.
I'm Brittany.
So today we are going to talk about our October book of the month, which was The Hazel Wood by Melissa Albert. So I guess first off, the synopsis of this book is we follow a girl named Alice whose mother goes mysteriously missing. And basically the whole thing about it is Alice's grandmother wrote this big fairy tale book, and the only warning and message her mother leaves for her before she's kidnapped is Alice, don't go to the hinterland. And the hinterland is the name of the stories that her grandmother wrote. Alice always thought that it was nonsense. She never read them, so she has no idea what to expect. And when she goes on this mission to find her mother, she learns more about the hinterland and a lot about herself. So I gave this book a 3.5.
I gave this book a 3.
I also gave it a 3.5.
So I think some of the positives that we were all talking about was the writing style.
It is a beautifully written book. It is a very atmospheric book. You can really kind of dive into the settings and the characters and such.
It is. It is very atmospheric, very dark, very twisty, very Once Upon a Time.
Yeah.
You get that immersion into this fairy tale, which is really cool because it takes real life and fairy tale and blends them together.
And it does a really good job of that.
It does a
really
very does a wonderful job. Melissa Albert did a great job of blending the fairy tale and the real life together. The issues I had with it is the plot seemed a little bit thin to me. There were some plot holes, some loose ends that were left, and some things that happened towards the end felt a little rushed. And I found the pacing to be a tad off. So that's why I gave it a lower-ish rating. I mean, 3.5 is not bad. Like, I enjoyed the story, but it didn't wow me.
Kind of going off the same hand with that, I also really didn't like the pacing. I felt like there were points where I'm like, wait, what just happened? I also listened to the audiobook for majority of it. I think I only read like one chapter. But I really did enjoy the way the story was introduced. I felt like it was a nice dark twist on some fairy tales. It wasn't very cookie cutter. Like, that's one thing when it comes to, let's say, retellings. I didn't feel like it was a retelling of fairy tales that we already knew. I felt like it was unique stories. It might be different once we get Tales from the Hinterland. That's most likely coming out next year. I might change my viewpoint on that once I get to read the full story of Alice Through Times. But it's mostly, I felt like it was a unique idea on the idea of fairy tales. So that's why I gave it a 3.5 instead of something lower.
And I will say I did give it the lowest rating. And I really did enjoy parts of this book. I really enjoyed her writing, like we were talking about, and I did appreciate that the characters weren't your cookie cutter characters. They weren't. Alice is not really a likable character, really at all. She's a brat. She really
didn't like her.
She's not a likable character. And while Finch is a great character, he can't hold the story together for me. He didn't hold the story together for me, and so the characters kind of fell a little flat for me, just because I wanted to like someone in this book, and I just didn't. And then my big problem, and maybe this is because I read too many fairy tales, I predicted what was going to happen, and by about 100 pages into this book,
She did.
I knew the ending, and I was right. For the most part. There were some aspects that I didn't have quite down, but I wasn't surprised by really anything in this book, which was really unfortunate. I was surprised by some of the characters, or some of the storybook characters that we meet, but that's about it. I was very torn by everyone's motives except for Alice's, because she says it every other sentence. And so I guess that's why I gave it a lower rating, is it felt very cliche for me. Lots of the aspects of the fairy tales I feel like I've seen before, a lot before. Even down to, this is bothering me, so if you know the answer to this question, please comment down below, because I need to know where the comb, the bone, and the feather come from, because there is another story that I feel like I have read that has aspects like that where they have these things in their pockets and they pull them out,
But we will say that if you really enjoy fairy tales, retellings, the Brothers Grimm, stuff like that, you will really like this book. I did really like this book.
Yes.
I plan on keeping it. I plan on continuing on with this series. I am hoping it gets better and these loose ends that I didn't care for tie up pretty nicely later on. I really am excited for Tales of the Hinterland, where we get to actually read these stories that we just got little snippets of in this book. So if you like dark, twisty, Brothers Grimm type things, definitely go and read this book.
definitely a good one for that.
So
for sure.
I think now we are going to get into spoiler land. So if you don't want to be spoiled, then you can skip the rest of this video.
So welcome back to our spoiler section. So the first big one that we kind of think of is Alice being Alice 3 times. So that's the first one that she actually picks up. In the story, she is very into wanting to find out more about her grandmother, but her mom is very anti-grandmother, so she kind of hides it from her mom, and that's one of the biggest themes I caught on was there are no lies between the two of them, but there's one major lie, and that is Alice is a story.
Is a story.
Yeah, Alice is a story.
She's a main character of a story.
She's Alice 3 times, which I got very like Twisted Frozen vibes, and we got hints and bits and pieces of Alice 3 times. It's just a very dark fairy tale. Basically, it's a girl, she's born, and she has these black eyes, and her mom doesn't love her.
Both her parents hate her.
Both her parents hate her.
Her mom refuses to name her until she's like 6.
Yeah.
And she has a very fast growth.
Well, she has like a weird growth.
Yeah.
She doesn't grow, and then she sprints,
she like grows,
and then she stops, and then she sprints. Yeah.
Yes. And then when she becomes of age, her dad actually falls in love with her in a twisted way, and so her mom's like, nope, she has to marry. And that's when we get the fairy tale aspect is for her suitor, they have to go to this cave, get her ice, bring it back, and these brothers have a plot to do it. They give her this ice, and they said, haha, you're not a wife, you're a servant. And so she eats the ice and becomes this ice
queen
thing.
And then kills them.
And
the horse.
And the horse, and then goes back to her kingdom to do we don't know, because we don't know how the story ends.
Revenge is all we know.
Revenge is all we got.
Yeah. So that's the major that's all we have, and that's why I'm really looking forward to Tales from the Hinterland next year, is so I can get that ending.
Yes. Definitely. I think it should have been obvious. I know it was obvious for some. I didn't necessarily see it coming. I saw it maybe coming like a chapter before. I did suspect that she was a story, not necessarily the main character of a story. So the fact that Ella, her mom, kidnapped her as a baby to break the story, that I didn't super see coming, and I found that to be a really interesting twist on how these fairy tales are supposed to be told. And kind of going off of that, Ella going into the hinterland and meeting all of these characters and falling in love with one of the brothers, I thought that was a really neat aspect that really did meld the fairy land with the reality land together, and the reason why our whole plot even ensued.
Yeah.
So I think kind of going off of that, the Alice being a story, we get to meet a storyteller, and that storyteller tells us that Alice's grandma, who's not really her grandma, also not actually dead, as we were told at the very beginning of the story, kind of tells her that her grandma has started to become an actual storyteller and is able to kind of weave and control these stories as well. I thought that was a really good twist and a really good way to propel the series forward, as well as the plot. The grandma being alive, I kind of did see coming from the beginning. It made it kind of obvious, which is fine. I thought that was a nice... I did want to be able to meet this woman. I thought her being dead was almost like a cop-out of the story. So I was really glad that we did get to meet her, and she did end up being kind of a nasty old lady. Wasn't a fan of her, but I didn't think I would be.
Yeah. Which I do like that, and kind of going off of that, if I can jump to the storyteller that we did meet also later, the fact that she's not a nice person. She's she's in it for herself. She's in it to get these stories told and to keep them going. Yeah. And I like that we're actually shown, because it's always a standing joke with authors that they're heartless people who just kill all of their characters. But no, that's actually what she does.
A little bit, yeah.
And it's kind of cool to see, and it's creepy and nasty. But yeah, I don't know. I guess I like the fact that no one in this world is like a really good person.
No.
Even Janet and Ingrid, when we meet them, Ingrid's never really nice to anybody. And Janet,
she's brutally honest.
She doesn't hide anything. She's not gonna candy wrap it or sugarcoat anything for anybody. And so it's kind of refreshing almost to not have the fairy godmother who's gonna fix everything. Like, hon, that sucks for you. You gotta go do your thing. So it's kind of nice to get that change.
It does, because it takes that play off of the actual Brothers Grimm stories opposed to, like, the Disneyification that we typically see nowadays, where, like, there's always a happy ending.
No. I will say I did enjoy that it wasn't a happy ending.
It wasn't, and it was.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like, it was and it wasn't.
It was a complete ending. Like, It was an ending, and the book is done.
I think each character gets their own version of a happy ending.
Yes.
So, Alice gets reunited with who she considers her mother, Ella, at the end, after... So that's kind of where it comes into the pacing. Let me backtrack really quick, is that when Alice is trying to break her story, it takes her 2 years. And in those 2 years, everything just kind of stops. We don't really get an idea of what happened to the other characters. It's just Alice being in her story and then breaking the story, and it's been 2 years. Yeah. So it's kind of like, oh, okay. But she still gets her version of the happy ending where she's with Ella, they're living together, they're kind of just continuing on their lives. And then, Janet and Ingrid, they get their own version of their happy ending where they get these passports and you can jump between the different doors and different lands, and then Finch just stays in the hinterland and he also starts world hopping. So everyone gets their own little happy ending, but it's not a glitzy happy ending. Which I enjoyed.
I preferred that.
And they don't rely on each other for the happy ending.
No. I will, and I guess, like, going off of that, all of our favorite character was Finch. So I think with Finch, we were kind of surprised by a lot of things that happened to him. He gets killed, and then he comes back, and then he stays in the story, and it's just a lot of whirlwind.
It is.
And he's betrayed, and
he betrays her.
I think Finch, like, betraying Alice was kind of obvious from the beginning. She is always told to be wary of the fans of the hinterland, and that's, like, the first thing he says to her is, I'm a big fan!
And she's like, I'll trust you anyway.
Yeah.
And it's
like, sure, let me drive you all the way out here into the middle of nowhere. That's not suspicious.
17-year-old.
Yeah.
With bottomless pockets.
I didn't see him getting, like, just brutally murdered.
No.
Didn't see that coming.
Also, that was an accident, technically.
Kinda-ish. Not really.
Kind of.
No, because Catherine gave her an ultimatum. Either you kill yourself or I kill him. And
Catherine didn't kill him, though.
No, she didn't. Someone else
did. But the other
did
that
I mean,
something.
she was going to kill him anyway.
She was going to kill him, but
she was... Happen.
Yeah.
It wasn't part of their plan, though.
No.
Yeah. That's more
That's
what
where
I'm
the
saying.
Sorry. Yeah, it wasn't part of
he was going to die anyways.
But, and then he came back after... Was it after Alice broke the story or during her breaking of the story?
He
helped her break the story.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I thought. So, I mean, him coming back to, like, help Alice break the story was a little weird.
But I will say, I actually saw that one coming.
Yeah.
I was like, he's dead.
I figured as soon as, I don't remember what character explained it to Alice that there's a way for stories to be broken, and when foreigners get into the hinterland, they sometimes get their own story. Their story's also written that way. So I kind of saw it being like, what if Ellery comes back as a story?
Yeah.
Mostly, I got that theory because that's about the time I went on Goodreads and saw that there was going to be a sequel and saw that he was going to be a character in the sequel, and I was like, oh.
Yeah.
So he comes back.
Yeah.
How does he come back?
Yeah.
So thanks, Goodreads, for that spoil.
I will say I think all of us are looking forward to The Night Country, which comes out January 7th of next year. I'm pretty sure the next book is supposed to be in Finch's point of view, but I could be wrong. So I'm interested to see like what he's been doing in Storyland and Hinterland. I think we're most excited though for the Tales of Hinterland that is supposed to come out at some point in 2020. We'll see how that goes.
AKA probably 2021.
Yeah, so we're really excited about that. Let us know in the comments if you like this book, if you didn't like this book, what you liked, what you didn't like about it, if you agree with our assessment. So for the month of November, we are going to be reading Girls of Paper and Fire by Natasha and Ngan. I know this was a big read on Brittany's list, and I think just Sarah and I really wanted to read it too. I know it's been on my shelves for a hot minute, and it's just so pretty. And I've heard really good things about it.
So like Hallie said, yes, this one has been on my top list that I want to read this year, as well as the sequels coming out in November, and that is on my anticipated reads, and as well as the third one coming out next year. That's been it's untitled, and there isn't an official published date yet, but I just know that I've looked at it based on the cover, the sequel's coming out, and the plot itself sounds really good.
It does. We're very excited to read this book.
And it's been all over BookTube.
It has. I've heard a lot of good things, so we are excited to get into it. So that is all we have for you guys today. Feel free to like, comment, and subscribe to our channel. We post videos every Tuesday, Thursday, and Sunday.
And feel free to hit the little bell icon down below if you want to be notified whenever we post these videos.
And be sure to follow us on Instagram. Our individual and joint account will be linked below, as well as our Goodreads.
And we'll see you guys in our next one. Bye!